The year 1945 did not end with the surrender. For Hinamaru, the true horror of the post-war era began in the freezing mud of the deep autumn forests. Following the Emperor's broadcast in August, an entire regiment of Imperial soldiers, men who refused to accept defeat, retreated into the dense, shadowed woods of the Chugoku Mountains. Bound by a twisted sense of honor and overwhelming despair, over 300 men committed mass ritual suicide. But in a land saturated with the sudden, violent death of the atomic bomb, the veil to the underworld had torn. The Jikaninki, flesh-eating ghosts, didn't just feast on their corpses. They possessed them. The regiment rose again, not as honorable soldiers, but as a starving, coordinated army of the undead, their uniforms stained black, their eyes glowing with a sickly, ravenous green light. They formed up in perfect, terrifying ranks and began to march toward a valley encampment of civilian refugees. The Corpse Regiment, winter 1945. Hinamaru stood on a ridge overlooking the valley, the freezing wind whipping his tattered white choreoflex suit. Below him, the undead regiment marched in chilling unison, the silence broken only by the synchronized crunch of hundreds of boots and the wet snapping of their own rotting jaws. They still carried their bayonets and officer swords, but their true weapons were the demonic hunger that drove them to eat the living. Yuki, her spectral form shivering in the cold. They died in absolute despair, Hinamaru. Their empty shells became vessels for the starving dark. You must grant them the rest they were denied. The wall of the vanquisher Hinamaru didn't use stealth. He triggered a massive, explosive cloud of white smoke that materialized directly in the path of the marching dead, entirely blocking the narrow mountain pass leading to the refugee camp. As the smoke cleared, the regiment halted. 300 undead soldiers stared at the lone figure in the white mask. Hinamaru felt a crushing weight in his chest. These were his countrymen, but the wicked green light in their eyes told him the men were long gone. The first wave, the front line, broke formation, unleashing a guttural, unified shriek and charged with rusted bayonets. Hinamaru didn't flinch. He used his super speed, moving like a phantom through their ranks. He didn't use his sword yet. With sheer, brutal super strength, he shattered their rotting limbs. He caught a thrusting bayonet, snapped the rifle in half, and drove a palm strike into the zombie's chest, caving in its ribcage and sending it flying backward into 5 others. The Iron Cyclone, they swarmed him, trying to tear at his suit with their teeth. Hinamaru grabbed 2 of the undead soldiers by their collars and swung them like massive flails, clearing a 20-foot circle in the center of the horde. The pure radiance. The undead were relentless, feeling no pain, driven only by the demonic parasite inside them. The regiment's zombified commander, riding a reanimated, decaying horse, drew his officer's katana and pointed it at Hinamaru. The entire horde surged forward at once. Hinamaru planted his boots into the freezing mud. He gripped the hilt of the Shinki Iwa no Kagayaki. When he drew the holy blade, the radiance of the spirit rock hit the dark forest like a second sunrise. The divine golden fire roared from the steel, completely blinding the undead. Hinamaru swung the sword in a massive horizontal arc. The holy energy didn't just cut. It projected a wave of pure solar heat. The front 3 ranks of the zombie regiment were instantly incinerated. The demonic entities inside them screamed as the light purified the rot, turning the corpses into blinding white ash. The final rest, Hinamaru didn't stop. He moved as a blur of golden light and white fabric. He vaulted over the horde, landing directly in front of the undead commander. The commander swung his blade, but Hinamaru's super speed easily bypassed the strike. With a single devastating upward slash of the sun sword, Hinamaru cleaved the commander and his spectral horse in 2. Without their leader, the remaining horde rushed blindly into the holy fire. For 20 minutes, the mountain pass echoed with the sound of roaring flames and the screech of dying demons. When it was over, Hinamaru stood alone. The ground was covered not in snow, but in thick, white ash. He sheathed the sword, the blinding light fading back into the gloomy winter afternoon. He fell to his knees in the ash, his faded white cornea staring at the ground. He had saved the refugees, but the emotional toll of slaughtering his own countrymen, even if they were already dead, was a heavy cross to bear.